If you could do anything and not fail, what would it be? That's probably one of my favorite questions to ask people. And honestly, what's most surprising to me is when I ask people that, they actually don't have an answer. But I want to ask you, if you could ever take your number one passion, your number one hobby, and turn it into a profession, would you? And what if I told you that although there is a lot of work to be done, it's actually totally possible? What's going on, guys? It's Mith Blue, and for this Myth Monday, we're actually going to be talking about the differences between a hobbyist and a professional and kind of the road in between. And this is a journey that I'm on, and believe me when I say the differences are actually pretty practical. As always, today is sponsored by Mith Coffee. If you guys have never had or heard of Mith Coffee, it's a coffee that me and my friend Alex are creating, and really it's going to be a single origin, rotating every year, a couple times a year, and you're going to be able to pick that up either at shows or online at our website, mithblue.com. So if you like coffee, you really want some I'm talking really good coffee, check it out right now in the link down below. What is it that makes you different from a professional of your same passions and the same kind of world of interest that you're in? A lot of us immediately would think, well, they get paid for it. I think the reality is money is actually more of an outcome of the basic principles that are the differences between, say, a hobbyist and a professional. Now, just like everybody, we start out as people that just have interests. We get inspired, we want to try something new. Maybe if it's playing the guitar, we saw someone play the guitar and we're like, wow, I wanted to do that. That's really cool. I love the way it sounds. Maybe we, heard Mariah Carey singing a song. We're like, whoa, like I love the way her voice made me feel. I want to be able to do that. And I love singing that song, and I love being able to, so I want to go and become a singer. Maybe it was photography, maybe it was a great painting, or we got to see someone like sculpt or throw a beautiful mug or a vase on the wheel. We were like, whoa, that is so cool. Like, I want to try that. And so whether it was maybe some classes, maybe it was trying to do it grassroots, like on our own, trying to figure some things out, we begin to discover new passions, new interests. Somewhere along the way, we get these passions, we get these ideas, these experiences, and we're like, man, like this is really fun. And maybe for us, it's only a dream of ever maybe stepping into a professional space. And so we just kind of keep it in our closet, put it back on the shelf. And when we feel inspired, when we feel excited, we'll pull that box down, we'll get into it, we'll have some fun. And that's kind of where we leave it at. Now, first of all, if you're a hobbyist, there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's actually too much pressure, especially in the creative world, in the music world, that if you're gonna be a creative, if you're gonna make music, you're gonna make art, you shouldn't, and you can't just be a hobbyist. And if you're a hobbyist, that your art isn't valuable, your music isn't valuable. And I think that's just like totally wrong. Like there's nothing less valuable about you being an artist. You just putting out music because you felt inspired or because you enjoy it. However, this echelon of like Drake, this echelon of Michael Jackson, this echelon of like these greats like the Beatles, like that's also something I think maybe gets us too overwhelmed and like that could never be for me, can't do it. But the number one difference between a hobbyist and a professional is what? Can you guess it? It's time. And I talked about this a little bit last week when we were talking about the writer's block, but the difference is mostly the time spent investing. Now, a hobbyist is only gonna spend the time when they have time. And when they have time, if they feel inspired to spend that time when they do have time, versus a professional is actually going to carve out time. Their whole time is going to revolve around that time for that thing, for their creative space. And a lot of us can't just simply jump there. So where do we start? Well, first of all, it's setting aside time. It's taking chunks of time, the time that we do have, whether that's an hour, 2 hours, and beginning to step into spaces where, regardless of whether we're not inspired, regardless of whether we don't feel like it, regardless of whether we'd rather watch TV or we'd rather play video games or we'd rather just scroll on YouTube or watch YouTube videos, we actually spend time creating. And in this process isn't yet about making money or making it a profession. This process is actually about learning. It's actually about failing. And I think you've always heard like, oh, we want quality over quantity. And this is the exact opposite. Actually, you want quantity over quality. You want consistency over quality, because what happens is, as we spend more and more time, we're not going to try to become the greatest guitarist all at once, but we mess up, we make bad art, we make mistakes, and we learn, and we're able to hone in on our identity, hone in on the things that we're actually passionate about, hone in on the things that inspire us in music, inspire us in our art, the things that we do want to communicate. And through that process, we actually go from being kind of a hobbyist to actually gaining some skills and kind of sharpening up our talents, getting better at writing songs, with singing, being able to push your voice more. But maybe that's with painting, like actually getting some more foundational real skills in painting. And what will begin to happen is you'll begin to have more intention with the time you're spending. And so the quantity slowly fades into quality. And the reality is, if you want to make a 1 in a million piece of art, you gotta make a million pieces of art, but no one ever said that they have to be good pieces of art. In fact, it's the thousands and thousands of bad art, of mistakes on the guitar, of mistakes singing, of bad paintings made, that we learn these skills, we correct, we improve, and develop and learn. Now, if you're like me, you don't really have a lot of time or resources to go out and get lessons from professionals. But yeah, lessons, coaching, these things can be super helpful. I know when I first started trying to pick up the guitar, watching videos online, it was helping me a little bit, but I didn't really get it. And it wasn't until I reached out to Ali, who's been my vocal coach, who's really taught me guitar and how to start training, start playing, that all of a sudden it unlocked a lot of things. And now the 5 hours it would take me to learn how to create a chord progression goes down to maybe 15, 30, 10 minutes to be able to actually start doing something. And is it always good? Is it always the chord progression I'm going to write a whole song about? No, but it teaches me more and more and more. And I think there is where I actually want to leave you guys, because the whole next steps of then how do we build a business and how do we get into money, I think is something that comes so much further along the way of getting into the rhythm. So again, I want to ask you, if you could do anything and not fail, what would it be? And if you really think, man, I wish I could do this, but I simply don't have the skills, or I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I want to encourage you, I think you do.